Well, in this video, I'd like to talk about the spiritual direction. And now I will begin by defining the spiritual direction. What does it mean when we speak of the spiritual direction? And then after that, I will have to speak about the duties of the spiritual director, the qualities of the spiritual director, and the qualities of that person who is directed. And also I'm going to speak also about the choice of the spiritual director. And also I will speak about spiritual direction through correspondence. Now, without wasting time, let us start by getting the knowledge or the definition or the explanation about the spiritual direction. What does it mean when we speak of spiritual direction? Well, it means spiritual direction means an act of leading the soul or leading the person progressively to the Christian perfection. What does this mean? This means that spiritual direction is something which is done skillfully with the purpose of making the person grow in union with God. Yeah, that's the definition of spiritual direction. You have to know the purpose, and you have to know that it is an art, and you have to know also that it is something which is done progressively. Now, when we speak of being done progressively, it means the spiritual direction has got stages, and each stage has got its corresponding needs and demands. So, by complying to the needs and demands, it has to be done progressively from the beginner stage to the proficient stage. From the stage which is ascetical, that means the stage by which a person has to fight against sins, till the stage where the person is free from doing sin and is now in union with God. So it is something which is done progressively. That is a spiritual direction. Now, having known that, let us speak something just a little about the necessity of the spiritual director. Is it necessary that a person needs a spiritual director? Yes, it is necessary, because the spiritual director, we know that is the person who has attained the spiritual growth, and so he knows a lot about it. He knows the challenges to be overcome. He knows the means to be used in this which called the spiritual direction. Now, should the spiritual director be a priest? Yes, the spiritual director should be a priest, because, first of all, by his faculty, he has got faculties which makes him able or capable of entering into the internal forum of a person, where he can know the state of the soul, whether he has sins, he has what and what is allowed. He has got that capacity. And also the priest is knowledgeable as regards to theology, and is knowledgeable as regards to ascetical and mystical theology. So it is a person who is well disposed to help the person, who is in need of his direction. Well, also let us speak about other people. Now, what if the person can't be directed, or he doesn't see the priest allowed to direct him spiritually? Can other people do it? Yes, they can. They can do it, provided that they have got the experience and they can fit their methods to the person who is being directed. Now, what should be considered for a person to have a spiritual director? Two things are necessary: free election and free acceptance, which means the person who needs a spiritual director should be free, not forcibly, to choose a person to direct him. And also the person who is going to direct that person, the person who is going to direct that son or the directee, he also should be able to, he should not be forced to accept that person who is to be directed. He should be able to accept him freely without force. So free election on the side of the one to choose the director, and free acceptance to the person who has who is requested for spiritual direction. Now, having said that, let me also add something. We need to talk about the difference between spiritual direction and the confession. When we talk about confession, we speak of that faculty or that aspect which is mainly concerned with the state of the soul of a person, when a person is in need of confessing his sins, is in need of forgiveness, and is in need of absolution. That is confession. But spiritual direction is more than that. Spiritual direction means although the person has got weaknesses, although the person has got sins, you have to direct him progressively till the end, till the time he can overcome his sins, and till the time he can be united to God. So that's the difference between spiritual direction and confession. Now, having said that, it suffices to say that you and me have a knowledge about the spiritual direction. We know the purpose of spiritual direction is that of leading the soul towards the arising Christian perfection. And the Christian perfection is attained when a person is completely united with God. And we know a lot about spiritual direction. Now let us talk about the qualities of the spiritual director. What are the qualities of a spiritual director? Mind you, when we speak of the qualities of the spiritual director, it is important to know them, because a person who is in need of a spiritual director should know them before he chooses a spiritual director. You get me? I think you get me. They have to be known for a proper choice, for the correct choice, which is to be done by the person who is in need of a spiritual director. What are they? First of all, the spiritual director should be a learned person, should have knowledge. Remember, even Jesus Christ said, thou shalt know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But if the spiritual director knows the truth, how will he set people free? See, it is important. It is important for the spiritual director to be learned. Now, should the spiritual director know everything in the world? Well, if possible, he can know. But there are things which are basic that should be known by the spiritual director. First of all, dogmatic theology. The importance of knowing dogmatic theology is to be guided against error, against heresies, so that when he's leading the soul, he does not lead the soul into errors, but he leads that soul progressively toward the truth. Ascetical and mystical theology. Ascetical theology deals with the practice or by which a person makes, or by which the person performs so as to overcome sin. And mystical theology deals now with one's union with God directly. So the priest or the spiritual director has to know it, so that he can discern whether, if the spiritual director is still a beginner, he is going to apply ascetical theology. If he's not a beginner, maybe he has attained some degrees to mysticism, he has to apply mystical theology so as to guide him or her. See, it is very important. And also the spiritual director should be learned, he should know all about the prayers. Prayer, this thing called praying should be at his fingertip and should be in his life or her life. And also, this spiritual director needs to know something about the psychology. He has to know the human behavior, the temperaments, the character, the personalities, so that he can fit his knowledge into the personality of a person whom he wants to direct. Yeah, exactly. So learning is highly encouraged. Otherwise, if a spiritual director has no competence, he should have that humility of being able to tell the spiritual director that, hey, you can go to that man, so and so, he can help you. For me, I can't help you because my levels of knowing, I've got the limits over here. That's learning. So the spiritual director should be learned. But also the spiritual director needs prudence. What does prudence mean here? Of course, he should have that quality of applying the right judgment to the person concerned. You see, now he has knowledge. He knows everything. This is spiritual director. But he can't apply everything at a concrete time, concrete circumstance. He needs to decide that this is the right thing is needed here. I can apply it. That's what is known as by prudence. So the spiritual director needs to be prudent. But also, when we speak of prudence, he should be able to emphasize or to make himself clear in making judgment. Make sure that that truth which he wants to impart can stay on the heart of a person who's directed. Yeah. And by so saying, if he has to improve his or to make himself clear, he shouldn't force things in the mind of the directee. So it needs to be clear. That's prudence. Also, when we talk about prudence, we should not forget that there is the other quality, the third quality, which is experience. Experience. What does it mean? Experience means that the spiritual director should have lived the spiritual life, so that he can share something out of his life. He should have practiced the ascetical life, and if possible that he has attained the mystical state, he should also be able to share something. So the spiritual director should be the person who has lived that spiritual life, Christian spiritual life, so that he can impart that life to the other person, the deity. Even the saying say that there is a saying that runs, nemo dat quod non habet. No one can give what he doesn't have. So the director needs to have that spiritual experience. How? And of course, this experience in directing the directees can also be gained if the that person has taken part in directing many people, because by directing others, he himself will gain something which is important also for other people. So experience, prudence, and learning are the three qualities of a spiritual director that are technical qualities. Very, very, very encouraged. They are technical qualities. They make a spiritual director to be resourceful. Thank you for watching that. Thank you for listening. Those are the qualities of a spiritual director. Now let us talk about the moral qualities of a spiritual director. First of all, piety. The spiritual director should be pious. How? This means he should be wholly dedicated to God. Wholly dedicated to God. And so he should practice detachment from the earthly things, from the vanities. He should pray that God doesn't guide him and moves his sight from gazing on the vanities of the world. See? So pious is highly encouraged. God should be the focus and the center of the spiritual director. But also the zeal for sanctification. The spiritual director should be imbued with that love, that, oh my God, for me, I am a man of God. Let also this person that I'm directing be also the man of God. Be also the man of God. So pious, zeal for sanctification, and followed by humility. The spiritual director needs to be humble. Just humble before God, to allow God to work within him, and humble before other people, so that to allow them to come to him, to be attracted to him or her. See? Humbleness. And it is very important to be humble, because there are some instances when the spiritual director proves to be incompetent. He cannot give answer based on his abilities. And when he's humble, he can be ready to welcome the other people to come around and help the spiritual director, or if possible, direct the spiritual directee to the other personnel. Yeah. And also, having said about humility and the zeal for sanctification and piety, there is also the issue of being disinterested. The spiritual director should be disinterested. What does this mean? This means that the spiritual director should not seek to gratify his own pleasures through spiritual direction. He should seek the glory of God in the spiritual direction. The interest should be very high, interested in God, not in myself or not in himself. And so doing so, if when we speak of being disinterested, we have to encourage something or to speak about this issue of avoiding gifts as a recompense. Because if the spiritual director directs his sons or daughters with the aim of getting gratification or getting gifts or what, he is going to be very weak in directing them. He won't be able to tell them the truth. He won't be able to tell them that the thing which pains them. So you need to be interested in God, not interested in himself, while directing the souls of other people. Yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. That's all about the qualities of a spiritual director. The qualities of the spiritual director. Now, having said that, having talked about the qualities of a spiritual director, in that lesson or in that video, I'm going to talk about choosing the spiritual director, and also I'm going to talk about the duties of a spiritual director, and also I'm going to talk about the qualities of the person being directed, and I will finish up with a point on the spiritual direction by correspondence. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. May God bless you.